Today, we're talking about Into the Dalek, episode 2 of Series 8. Capaldi's second episode, his first episode outside of his debut. And I quite like this episode. On a basis, I think it's better than Deep Breath. But there are moments of Deep Breath that are better than this. So it's hard. Deep Breath as an episode is probably going to score higher than this. But this is really good. It is really good. This is your warning that there are spoilers going ahead. So if you don't want spoilers, just click right off. Just click off. It's well easy. And that's spoilers for the entirety of Series 8 and probably the entirety of Capaldi's run. So if you're watching this through before you've seen all of that and you don't want spoilers, feel free to click off. So yeah, that's your warning. Right off the bat, I love the bit where, is it Journey Blue's her name, right? And she gets teleported onto the TARDIS from the Doctor. And Journey, obviously, as they always do, soldiers, they hold the gun up and they're like, you take me back to my ship now. And the Doctor's like, don't shoot. And she goes, or what? And he says, oh, you might shoot me, and then where would you be? And I love lines like that. Capaldi's lines throughout this whole episode, I think this is the episode where Capaldi has the most amount of lines, like his comparison lines, when he's like, imagine the worst thing in the world and then don't bother because you're looking at it right now. Or don't be lasagna. Or this is Clara, she's my carer, she cares so I don't have to. Stuff like that I love about him. And I love Capaldi as a whole when he is like this and he has these lines that are smart but jokey, and they sort of do poke fun at people. It goes against what every other Doctor does. Every other Doctor would never point at someone and laugh at them. But Capaldi does that in this series, and it is a change. It's a change where I did a video on this the other day, how Doctor Who in the moment is always worse than when it's in the past. For example, when this aired, I hated that. I was like, the Doctor is a loving person who cares for everyone. I would never poke fun at somebody. But now it's in the past and we've moved on from that and the Doctor's back to being that. I sort of like that this series does that because it does show how much Capaldi as a person, or as a Doctor I suppose, as the 12th Doctor, has evolved over his series. I go against the majority when I say that I like Danny Pink. I really like him and I like the way that his story goes, and I like the scene, it's very Moffat-y, where Clara's asking him if he's going to Janet's leaving do or whatever, and it just cuts it between him sat at his desk like banging his head on the table being like, why didn't I say this, to him like completely bottling the conversation. It's very Moffat written, and you know, if you watch this channel or any of my other channels, I love Moffat's writing, so that is a big highlight for me. And we've all done that where we've like spoken to a girl, if you're a bloke and you're into girls, you've spoken to a girl and she said, oh yeah, let's do this, and you always go, because the thing is, when you're a bloke, right, when you're a straight bloke, majority of the time, especially in your teenage years, you want to have a girlfriend and you want to get with girls, but then you're also terrified of girls. So you're like, oh, I really want to go out with Jessica. And then Jessica will come up to me and be like, hey, we should do this. And you go, oh, I've got some reading to do. So it really did make me feel like, you know, even as you grow up to be an adult, you still have those stupid moments that you'd have when you're a teenager. The concept overall of being like shrunk down into a little tiny person and being injected into a living thing is really, really cool. And it's what Moffat always says about Doctor Who. It's like, you've got to blow a full feature-length film on a 45-minute episode of TV. And I could definitely see this being like a sci-fi film. But I'm glad it was done here with the Daleks, because it's a cool concept of like being put inside your worst enemy. Like, it's just cool, and it's very interesting. There wasn't a lot done with it. They could have done a lot more with it. Not off the top of my head can I name anything they could have done, but there was more that could be done with this premise than what they did. And I also think this was taken from a comic series or a magazine series or Big Finish or something, where this has been done before. It wasn't a complete original idea, but I like the premise. The execution was good, but it wasn't what it could be. So I suppose if this was the feature length, it could have been better, but it wasn't. And again, I like that it was the Doctor who cured the Dalek. If you remember, the reason the Dalek was acting up was because it was injured inside, and the Doctor goes up and he sonics it, and then he sonics it back together. And when the Dalek gets put back together, it becomes evil again. And I like the moment where Clara confronts him and is like, you're happy to die now, because they're going to die because they're inside an evil Dalek. Clara's like, you're happy that this has happened because it means you were right and the Daleks are evil. And that sums up the Doctor, especially Series 8 Doctor, the best. He was happy to die in that moment and all these people to die because he was right about the Daleks being evil. And that is something that makes Series 8 Capaldi like a new level of different Doctor. We've never had he's not evil, but he doesn't care. The Doctor always cares, but Capaldi doesn't. And if I was reviewing this at the time, I'd hate that. But like I said, because it's in the past, I like moments like this. Although in the end, Rusty isn't evil, because Rusty comes back in Twice Upon a Time. Well, no, the reason he's not evil is because he looked into the Doctor's head and saw the hatred for the Daleks. So he's actually, he's still technically evil because he wants to kill the Daleks, but he's not against us anymore. And obviously, if you've seen the whole Capaldi era, Twice Upon a Time, Rusty comes back to say goodbye, which obviously, if you know, Twice Upon a Time wasn't actually meant to be a special. It was added in at the very last minute, so we almost never saw Rusty again, and I'm glad we did. Even though Twice Upon a Time's plot barely exists, I'm glad we got a bit of Rusty in there. I really am. And a great thing with Moffat is even the smaller characters like Gretchen, when they die, you do feel sad. Gretchen had like 5 lines that entire thing, but I was still sad when she died, because Moffat makes you care about them in small ways. I can't even name you why I cared so much about her, but just because of the way they're written, and they're written so humanly, which makes me think, what the hell went wrong in the Chibnall era? Because I didn't care about any of them, and maybe that's my negative mindset. I will go back and rewatch them at some point as well, and review them here, of course, but I just think the Moffat era did something special with Russell. I think Russell's era did the best with like caring about characters overall, but caring about characters in a small amount of time, Moffat does best. Look at Trev in Joy to the World, the most recent Christmas special of Doctor Who. We care about Trev pretty much instantaneously and by magic. It's like Moffat puts you under a spell somehow, which is cool. But Gretchen dies and she goes to the afterlife, the promised land, heaven. And she sees Missy, which Michelle Gomez. I love Michelle Gomez, and I'm glad that she's in Doctor Who. This was actually my introduction to her. Prior to this, she'd been in Bad Education, which I hadn't seen until I was a little bit older, because it aims more at teenagers, and I wasn't a teenager when this aired. I just love Missy. Missy's arc is one of my favourite in the entirety of Doctor Who, and I cannot wait to watch it again. I can't wait for this series finale, and these little hints of it every episode are making me excited to see the finale even more. And I think Clara's response to the "Am I a good man?" question that the Doctor asks is perfect. Saying that, I don't know if you're a good man, but I think you try to be, and that's the point, is such a good answer. It's such a good answer, because that is true. You know, you can, on paper, not be a good man, but if you're trying to be, then that's all you can do. That's all you can do. And it's a thing of like, well, change doesn't happen overnight, and if you just try and be good, then you shouldn't hate someone who's just trying to be good, even if they do things that are bad, like blowing up your own planet, which he didn't do in the end, somehow. Who knows? That was my thoughts on Into the Dalek. Do I prefer it to Deep Breath? Oh, if I had to pick to watch one again, I'm probably going to pick Deep Breath. But Deep Breath's episode is longer than it needs to be by about 15-20 minutes. So this is just easy to stick on. I'm really split. I think I ranked Deep Breath too highly last time. I put it as a 4 out of 5. I think it could have been a 3.6 or 3.7. So I'm going to rank this episode a 3.7. 3.7, 3.8 out of 5. I like this. I'd put it on again. I would watch it again. I'm going to lower Deep Breath in my head. It doesn't really matter. No one pays that much attention. But yeah, 3.7, 3.8 out of 5 for Into the Dalek. What do you think about it? Leave it in the comments. You can tweet me and get me on Instagram, Cybus56 on Instagram. You can watch another one of my videos. They'll be on the end screen in a moment with Doug-a-Doo. Come back, subscribe. I'll come back. I'll post again soon. Well, tomorrow probably. Leave a like. There's a hype button near the comments. It says hype. If you press that, it means the absolute world. Don't bother about any of it if you don't want to. You genuinely don't have to. I'm just here for fun. Thank you for watching, and cue Doug-a-Doo.